Literacy is not limited to reading, writing, and acquiring certificates, but ability to discharge economic, social, and civic responsibility effectively. Now, government and also corporate organizations have always placed much premium on literacy, having realized its necessity. Now, consequently, 8th of September every year has been set aside for International Literacy Day. Recent data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, and as well as other independent analysis indicates that there has been what can be described as near astronomical increase of literacy in Nigeria. Well, how true that is, we'll get to find out from my guest. And also, it's said that a 21st century education requires a new kind of literacy. Just how true? Things around you should be telling you that, because what used to be the norm back in those years certainly different. And if you thought you're not part of the global village, then certainly you're so much in the dark. So how are we really working towards achieving a totally literate population, and should literacy be limited to a particular segment of society? We'll be finding out all of this. Where are the gaps, and how can we bridge such gaps on today's world? That's our focus on Nigeria today, and my name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to the program. Joining us to look at this aspect of bridging literacy gap in Nigeria, I'd like to welcome Dr. Emmanuel Aina. Dr. Aina is a former director of FCT Education Secretariat. Dr. Aina, welcome to the program.
Good evening, viewers. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, joining Dr. Aina on set is Charles Falajiki. I try to remember that pronunciation. Falajiki. Better to put it that way. He is the Community Engagement Manager, Aid for Rural Education Access Initiative. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Okay, first thing first, let's put in perspective what literacy is, and of course, for some it is an aspect of education, which is a big one now. Education, literacy, and for everyone, they say education is a right. Should literacy also be a right, or can it be said to be a right, Dr. Aina?
Yeah, like you have rightly prefaced this discussion, education is not only a right; it's a fundamental human right, as enshrined in the Human Rights Declaration by the United Nations way back to the year 1948. It's not only about children, it envisaged the need for every citizen, no matter the background, no matter the socioeconomic status, to have access to education. For one reason or the other, some might have missed the opportunity. So the literacy program is to ensure that that segment of the society is captured in the educational delivery system, and that is why government world over recognizes the need to create access to every of its citizens. Here in the FCT, the government attaches so much importance to this program that it has a full complement of an agency headed by a director to oversee the drive for literacy education, because taking cognizance of the fact that it has both intrinsic and extrinsic value. I mean, talking about the value to an individual and to the society at large. Succinctly put, an individual who can read and write is an asset not only to himself, but to the society at large. Like you said, it has both economic, social, and even political, benefits that cannot be easily quantified.
Okay, let's get the thoughts from Charles.
Thank you.
Falajiki.
Thank you so much. So, as our doctor rightly said, education is a fundamental human right, and every child have the right to have access to quality education regardless of their geographical location, their gender or socioeconomic status, all right? And most importantly, literacy is important because I believe that's the foundational skill that, every child needs to have access to evolve as a lifelong learner, because it's quite difficult for a child to have, quality education without having the foundational skills required, which is literacy. And, as Dr. Adnan rightly mentioned, it has economic importance, it has political importance, and also as well, it has health importance, because when a child or, every individual can read or write, you can actually take, hygienic, health measures to ensure that you stay safe. Imagine that no one can read or write. How do we want to cope with COVID-19 pandemic? So literacy is at the core of whatsoever is happening in society, in economic, in politics, in education. Literacy is fundamental, and every child actually deserves the right to have access to it. And most importantly, it has to start from the foundation, from the basic education. How do we ensure that children at the basic education level are equipped with functional and foundational literacy competency that can ensure that as even they continue the educational sojourn, they can have the competency to evolve as lifelong, and even when they're out of school, they can leverage on those skills of they've acquired by literacy development programs to ensure that they continue to learn effectively and efficiently to become a responsible member of society.
Okay, you use some words. I actually noted down functionality and also competency.
Okay.
For several years now, we've talked about the kind of education that people have been exposed to here. Well, it's relative for so many people, but getting what will make you functional in today's society, getting what will make you competent to actually compete favorably, whether within the society here or even on the global stage, it's still of great concern to the different tiers of government and also to the nation. Take, for instance, you hear of unemployable graduates. You hear of graduates that that are not teachable, and also that cannot even function in the right environment. What does that say to the kind of education and literacy such have acquired?
Oh, all right, thank you. So what I mentioned is functional and foundational. So there is something the World Bank calls the basic, minimum proficiency that a child should acquire before leaving the basic education level. So, for example, we can categorize literacy into quite a number of categories. We have letter identification, we have morpheme, we have word, we have paragraph, we have stories. All right. So it's important that even before a child leaves the primary education level, which I believe is the basic education level, should have minimum proficiency in in reading story, paragraphs, and have the ability to read and comprehend, because it's quite difficult if a child can read and not comprehend. So the main component of literacy to ensure that children have, or learners have, the functional foundational skills or minimum proficiency in literacy is that they can read and comprehend. So we're going to have problem if children can read and do not have the ability to comprehend what they are reading. So it's not possible for them to make advantage or to make judicious use of whatsoever information they are getting in, and that will definitely have ripple effect on their future employability, because you don't want to go for an interview and you're probably given an oral test to read or something, and you can read but not comprehend what you're reading. It's a big problem. How do you want to go on to write exams? How do you want to have academic excellence? How do you want to have economic prosperity or empowerment? So it's quite difficult if literacy programs or development or focus is not based on equipping children with the ability to read and comprehend what they're reading, to ensure that they have that functional literacy skills, to ensure that they, as they go in life, that those skills become important to them to leverage opportunities in the future, even in the global community.
Okay, well, I'll still get back to that, because like we've pointed out, this is a great concern to every one of us, and there's no end to learning. And for you to actually learn, that means you have to be open to whatever it is that you are being presented with. Let's get back to Dr. Aina. Of course, being an educationist yourself, and for one, having I don't know, beyond the FCT, if you've done more of your movement around the state or 36 states of the Federation, which I believe you have to get to that level. Let's explore what obvious gaps are there when we're talking about literacy level in Nigeria.
Yeah, well, if I may weigh in on the last question you raised, because it will help us to dovetail into this question you just asked. The focal people in literacy program in our own context are mainly the adults and those who probably miss the opportunity of going to school. And using the FCT agency as a model, of course the FCT is supposed to be a model to others. Within its ambit, they have various departments, recognizing the fact that the literacy program they are driving is both a facilitating program and a catalyst, to so many other things, and which is why they have department as the literacy department. They have women education department. They have vocational and technical education, section. They have continuing education to capture that segment of society that missed or dropped out of school, or that have some remedial program they need to run to make up for their deficiencies in the education they had received. So, and within these various departments, like the vocational technical education, there are what I would call trade subjects, occupational subjects like carpentry and joining, like fishery, catering services, even ICT is also captured. These are empowerment programs that will not only educate the mind but also educate the hands, because like you rightly observed, that is what is lacking in our system, unemployable graduates. So it's an all-encompassing program that could capture not only the ability to read but the ability to use your hands to eke out a living for your own environment. Then talking about the gaps, of course there are some intervening variables that sometimes cause a setback in the program. For example, the COVID pandemic, nobody saw it coming, so to say. That slowed down not only the literacy program but so many other sectors of economic development in the society. The issue of funding cannot be discountenanced. It's always there as a recurring decimal. And then the issue of attitude. To date, well, some people for one reason or the other don't really have much appreciation for education. And so that is one of the latent benefits of the literacy program, because if parents are well educated, if parents have awareness, they can read and write, they will appreciate more the need for them to support the education of their wards or their children. So while government is making its effort, there are certain intervening variables that sometimes can slow down the program. The paucity of funds is something that affects every segment of society. It's a dwindling resources, revenue, the debt trap and the debt burden and the rest of them. So, but these gaps, given the political will, can by and large be addressed so that more achievement will be recorded in making the entire society a literate one.
Okay, Dr. Aino and also Mr. Falajiki, we'll be going on a break. When we get back, what modules or what can be done to actually help prepare the next generation, even for those already here? I'm going to be bringing on a quote from one foremost writer and also a futurist who saw these. And when we get back, we'll find out what that quote is exactly and how it's impacting on us today in the different ways. You're watching Nigeria Today. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Nigeria Today, and we're taking a look at what the literacy, bridging the literacy gap in Nigeria. Now, before the break, we'll start talking about the obvious gaps, and I'm sure they all resonate with whatever is happening around us. But then, let me take this quote from Alvin Toffler. Alvin Toffler was an American writer and futurist and business man as well, known for his works discussing modern technologies, including the digital revolution and the communication revolution, with emphasis on the effects on cultures worldwide. Of course, we're part of the global village, and this particular quote, it says, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Because if you don't have a strategy, you're part of someone else's strategy. Now, we've talked about people, perhaps they could have missed the opportunity of maybe going to the four walls of the school, but they found one form of education in their different ways. And there are some persons today whom have actually gone through the four walls of the schools, and it's as if they never went at all, because their own mindset is, this is the way it is, and we must continue to do it this way. So the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write now, but those who cannot learn. And if you get to hear people say educated illiterate, Dr. I know.
Well, that's an indictment of the society, and to some extent those who have the responsibility of for education delivery. Well, education should be dynamic. I mean, it should be amenable to changes in society, which sometimes happen in rapid succession. In the Nigerian context, that is why the review of curriculum is regularly done. Of course, no curriculum is perfect. The essence of the review is to capture some of the emerging developments in society, because no society is static. And in the Nigerian context, again, a lot of premium is placed on the functionality of education. For example, in the
Which
national...
was what Falajiki talked about.
For example, in the national policy on education, the ratio of science to art students, especially in our tertiary institution, is 60 to 40. But the question is, are we adhering to this? All kind of universities are coming up and they offer, maybe for the sake of it, not for the identifying needs in the society.
Great, which is why I'm taking the next question to, which of course I appreciate where you've taken it up to. Let's bring in Falajiki now. Earlier we talked about the issue of functionality and also the competence, which is what we need today. There are issues of insecurity. During the COVID pandemic lockdown, we knew what parents had to go through to get their words online, to actually start learning online. And whether we like that or not, that is the norm today, and that has come to stay. We need to continue that form of education. We need to learn some new things, and unlearn certain things that, okay, it will not be business as usual. Now, how do we get the people to find their interest, because you must find what is actually of interest to you. We must find what will be functional for the society today. We must find and let people experience different ways to learn. How do we achieve that?
All right, thank you. I think the first thing I'd like to talk about is the contextual appropriateness of every intervention or program designed to bridge a literacy gap in Nigeria. All right, it's almost not going to work if we are taking anything digital to a society who do not have access to digital infrastructure or they lack digital skills. All right, so the contextual appropriateness of whatever we want to do are very, very important. And also, it's very okay for me to know that even as the first industrial revolution is it has been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. We don't have to be technocentric in our approach. All right, before we tell ourselves that technology is the answer, we need to ask what is the problem. All right, not everything. Technology doesn't solve every problem. So we need to look at the contextual appropriateness of our interventions. And there are, fortunately, there are multiple offline, low-tech and offline digital tools that can be used to facilitate independent learning. All right. For example, I work in a non-profit organization, and we have, several programs that look at how we can leverage low-cost and low-tech tools to facilitate literacy development for children and to equip them with the foundational literacy and numeracy skills, because we believe that literacy and numeracy are quite foundational and they equip children. So we can leverage, number one, contextual appropriateness, look at how we can improve access to literacy development program by leveraging low-tech or zero-tech educational intervention programs that will ensure that people have they have the competency to use whatever we are bringing to them. And also we can leverage what we call a bilingualism approach for literacy development, because there is no point if we are teaching something and the person who can't understand what we're teaching. For example, now, if I want to teach let's say chemistry to a child that doesn't understand English language, that's difficult. So there's something called bilingualism, which is using a mother tongue language to facilitate the development of another language. So for example, you want to teach a child how to read in English, you use Hausa to teach English. And we have programs like this designed across Nigeria that can actually help. For example, one is a fast track program that uses a particular
contextual appropriateness, you've given that, and
absolutely.
also bilingual. What other things? Let's get Dr. Emmanuel Aino to quickly respond to that. We must go now.
Just to buttress some of the points he had raised, for instance, the issue of bilingualism. In the FCT Agency for Mass Education and Literacy, they have a radio program that, presents their program in English, Hausa being the language of the environment, and then Gbagi being the language of the locals. I think the issue of attitude also must be, emphasized, and that is why the department also has a unit for mobilization and monitoring to ensure that what is on paper is what is on ground.
So when you say attitude, from who now?
Well, it's culture-based to some extent, and without being derogatory, we know that even in this 21st century, there are people who still have some misgivings about the kind of formal education that government is trying its best to promote. So
they should be open-minded. That's what you just said.
Yes, that's a serious, gap in the system, because whereas people are driving formal education, some people perceive it as having negative impact on what they believe in. And it will take a lot of sensitization to correct that. That's the aspect of unlearning some of these misplaced concepts.
So we're back to what Alvin said about unlearning, learning, and relearning.
Okay, it has to do with attitudinal change, and it takes time.
Which is very key at this point in time. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, we can't stop learning, and that's why we know that this is not the end to this discussion. There will be other fora to actually take a look at what more we need to do to get our literacy aspect on track. And knowledge is what everyone should search for from time to time to actually make society a better place. Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel Aino, former director with FCT Education Secretariat. We appreciate your insights and also your perspective to the program this day.
It's my pleasure.
Also, appreciation to Charles Fala Jiki, Community Engagement Manager, Aid for Rural Education Access Initiative. We appreciate your views and keep doing what you know how to do best, making sure those children, those different areas you are reaching, catch on with the rest of the world. I'm sure we'll be better for it, even as the season moves by.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. We also appreciate you for watching Nigeria Today. You can watch this edition as well as other edition online at youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for watching.